Okay. Hi, Natasha. How are you?
How are you, Diana?
I'm great. So we are live on the flip side. And this is a show that we just get to talk about anything we want to talk about. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about women and why they should be investing. And so before we get into that, before we get into that, I just want to let people know a little bit about yourself. So just do you want to just share a little bit about yourself? What kind of investor you are? Anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. Well, hello, everyone. So my name is Natasha Feghali. We operate out of three provinces in Canada. We mainly have multifamily rentals. We have some single family, and we just recently got into an Alberta pre-construction. So I'm so happy about that. And we also do just some other financial investing on the side, such as stocks and bonds. We are looking at the United States as well as a possible market in the future. But for right now, we're very contented. We are a very slow growing. We don't rush into anything. I would say we're more conservative. And both my partner and I, we still work full-time jobs. So this is wonderful for us and like for the future passive income and just creating that nest egg for our future.
Awesome, awesome. Thanks for sharing. So let's get started. So what why do you think women should invest? And I don't know, are we just going to talk about real estate or just investing in general? I mean,
I
both are
think
great topics.
investing in general, I think even when you invest in real estate, if you have a financial advisor, I'm definitely not here to give anybody financial advice or how or what to do. I mean, that they can speak with a professional, but I also feel that if you have for us, like we have rentals and then with that income, the extra income, we continue to invest that in different ways that we see fit at that time. And so sometimes they go into, high yield stocks, and then other times, it goes towards just building the portfolio of real estate. And I think for women that it's very important, especially now more than ever, coming back to Canada after working abroad for a sabbatical, things are very, very expensive. And I think that investing can give you that passive income to create a life that you are contented with. And also, if you have a family, it's also that passive income for other things within that within your family that are needed, and you can leverage it. Say, you need a HELOC or your kids are going to school and so forth. Because not everybody is going to be buying buildings and having this multi-billion-dollar portfolio. Some people just want a small little nest egg, and I think this is the right avenue for it.
100% agree. And if you guys like what you hear, let us know, send us some comments. Like our show. And I would definitely say I completely agree with that. It just gives you lots of freedoms. When you have that extra money come in, and especially if it's passive money, which a lot of people, I think, because I mean, a lot of people
Yeah,
have their jobs or if you do have kids, maybe you're full time with just like taking care of your kids or whatever it is.
yeah,
But having that passive income helps a lot to, like you said, the price of things have gone up quite a bit. And if you can kind of, still do what you need to do and not have to sacrifice because you have this money, it goes a long way. And we're never
oh
telling
yeah.
anyone, we're never telling anyone that, it's like to quit your job or whatever. It's to
No,
do
I
what
never
you
say that.
want to do, right? It's to give you
Yeah,
the abilities to, make sure you have food on the table for your kids, or make sure that you're doing the hobbies and interests that you like, or maybe it is quitting that job, whatever it is, but giving you these things give you the freedoms to make the decisions you want to know. Like one of the big things I feel like when you start making a lot of money is that even just discovering yourself. I feel like
yeah,
when you don't act, when you're going through paycheck to paycheck or just kind of like trying to make ends meet, you really don't have time to be like, who am I? Like, who is Diana? Who is Natasha? You know, what is she actually like?
Yeah,
Because you're just
yeah,
thinking more like, I need to survive. You know, you're in survival mode. Like, I need to make these payments. I need to make sure this is done and that done. And it's the purpose is to help you get out of that survival mode and be able
yeah.
to really see like what it is that you want to do and why you're doing what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that, there's a lot of expense that comes with owning real estate. As you know, this is a living, breathing entity, and we work with tons of different people, and you need people who are competent. So there are expenses attached to it. However, I do think that if you are someone who is patient, you can watch your business grow over a long term. I am in my 7th year now of owning my own business. There has been ups and downs. There's been some times, but I think during COVID, most businesses suffered. So I don't feel that I'm an isolated case. And I know that although we were on the brink of, really having to maybe close the doors on one property, with a lot of hard work and mentorship, we were able to keep it going. And things like that come up on your journey, on your investment journey with, real estate, with any investing. There's always highs and lows. However, one thing that I do is I just keep growing and learning. And I don't have a lot of time to read, so I do a lot of audiobooks and I do a lot of YouTube videos where I listen and I learn. And then
Mhm.
I have to make hard decisions and have really hard conversations with people that, you know, no, you don't dictate how things go. I do.
Mhm.
Because at the end, I'm responsible for everything. So it is a lot of responsibility, and there can be moments of, work fatigue. However, I know that in the long run, this is the best thing. And I see other people around me who haven't invested and they are very sorry now because yes, prices, especially in Ontario, might be going down or, sort of might be leveling out. However, interest rates are going up. So the entry point, the ceiling is low and the floor is high. So that margin to enter is really small now, unfortunately.
Mhm. Yeah. And just something that you were saying is like that. And there's so many different avenues to get in, right? Because if if you know someone that you trust, there's also, you can partner up with them if you want to be
Yeah.
completely passive, right? If you like them, you follow them, or you know them personally,
Mhm.
then you can also go that avenue. Or if you want to start your own business, that's the nice thing about anything you do. There's so many different avenues
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
don't discount anything as like, oh, I have money, but I don't have the time, or I have no money, but I have all this time. I'm
All
not
the
working, whatever.
time. Yeah.
So it's just getting out there, like learning, like what can you do with your situation, right? Like you're saying, even mentorship is so important, right? In mentorship, they really help you. Like you said, you had your mentors to help you keep the house and figure out like how to make it work with the situation you're in, right? Like sometimes things happen, we get like our blinders on because it's like something's going wrong. Sometimes you need that outside force to kind of give you that clarity and be like, okay, this is the
Right.
problem. Like this is a solution, this is a solution, this is a
This is
solution.
the solution.
Or these are different options to, making whatever you want happen, and not just giving up, right? Not being like, well, it didn't happen, so it's done and over with. There's always
Yeah.
solutions. And it's like having your eyes open and allowing yourself, like ears and eyes open, right? Making sure that you're
Yeah.
there to hear and listen and see what's there, because a lot of us, we close our eyes to it. And how are you supposed to find the solution if your eyes are closed, your ears are closed to it, right? Like
Oh,
if you're
you
not there
can't. You
looking,
can't.
right? You have to
You,
keep on, you have to really put the energy into just like that, at least keeping your eyes and ears open, because a lot of us don't realize, like, opportunities are passing us, and it's because we're not looking for them, right? or things come up that could help you solve your solution. And you're not, or for example, like an example that I really love that people share is that, you know, you're so scared of losing money, your hand is closed tight, so tight, tight, tight for all that money, that because you don't want to lose the money. But then all this money is coming by that you're not even taking advantage of. And it's just like, open up your hands, you know, allow the money to come in. Because sometimes, you know, holding tight on all the money, basically your hands are closed to not even letting yourself receive what is possible, what's out there.
Yeah, yeah. No, Diana, you make a great point. Like, I think there's so many opportunities in this world. And, you know, unfortunately, we're so far from the rest of the world that we don't know and we don't see them. And oftentimes we don't take the risks and the chances that are needed. And, you know, somebody brought this up to me the other day and they asked me, like, why do you work overseas so much? And I stopped and I thought about it. I'm like, wait, why do I? But then I realized I'm working since I was 15 years old. I have had a job. Before that, I was a babysitter. I did flyers. And it's like, you know, now as I'm on the cusp of 40, I think, oh my gosh, I've been working for 25 years already. So why wouldn't I take a chance? Why wouldn't I, you know? And so I just feel like it's very, very interesting when, you know, you talk to people and you hear that in their voice that they wish that they would have taken more chances, taken a risk. Like, at the end of the day, even if you fail, what's going to happen to you? Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And really, like, understanding that the failure is just a learning lesson to continue going forward to make whatever it is supposed to happen happen.
Yes.
And actually, something actually I'm reading, I'm like studying, I should say, studying, because this book
Oh,
is
what are
more
you
of a
studying?
study. It's
Tell me.
oh my God, what is it called? Oh my
What's it
God,
called? I want to write it down.
Think and Grow Rich. That
Oh,
book
yes.
is
Yes.
not a leisure read. It's a, you have to sit down and study it. I do a lot, I do a similar thing as you. I'm an audiobook type of person, but I usually will always pick like one book to kind of to say study or like really go deep dive into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
book is like a textbook. Like I didn't realize like it's a lot of information. So one of the things actually they talk about is that it's actually I like read it in chapter one. I just finished chapter one, but it talks about
Okay.
your desires and basically how to change your thoughts or your wishes, because a wish is nothing, but how to make your thoughts turn into
Right.
materialistic
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
And I love the way they explain it because it's also about, it's basically like the non-negotiable. Like if you want something, it becomes an obsession, right? And you just like are thinking night and day and just taking actions forward to get what it is that you need to get done. And so I feel like as long as you're always in that direction, your
Yeah.
end will never be a failure. You will have failures during the path because that's how you're learning. You're like, okay, this didn't work. Now I need to do this. Okay, this is an option. I
Yeah.
need this, right? You're
Yeah.
you're failing as you go through your path, but you're doing it because you need to learn like what it is that you actually want, what it is that actually works for you. But if you are actually focused, honed in, and doing what it is that you really desire, you actually like, it's a must for you, you're obsessed with it happens, right?
It'll happen for you.
It will get done, yeah.
I
And
think, yeah, you will find a way. Just I'll give you an example. I was thinking the other day, I'm like, oh, I'd like to just, you know, lend instead of do anything. I just want to lend and do like promissory notes. And then all of a sudden I get an email about it. Whether I explore it or not is a different story. However, I think that you call things into your space, and that's been something that even when I bought in Alberta, I was sitting in a taxi and I received an email about a property in Alberta, and it was exactly the price that I wanted to pay. And what's weird is the price that it said, I thought that was the price, but it was actually the door number. It was the unit number. So when I called, he's like, actually, no, that's the unit number. However, someone just called and they don't no longer want to be a part of this. And they didn't go far enough to actually have their unit held for them. So would you be interested in this apartment, which is actually the price that you want? And, I think that life just happens like that. And I wanted to get into pre-construction for a long time now. And, because of just the way that myself and my partner do things, we are very risk averse. We don't like a lot of risk. I will take more than he will. However, I have to consider both sides. So, we grow slowly. So sometimes opportunities do pass us by, unfortunately or fortunately. However, I feel like the right ones, which are supposed to be mine, are mine.
I completely agree. And I think that's a great example because I know all of us can really see in our lives that things that we knew that happened would happen, because it was like that thing that, for example, you're just honed in and it's all you can think about. Like, I'm doing this and this is what I want. Like that for me, actually, I've always had very interesting opportunities with jobs. For example, I was burnt out in university, and because I didn't take summers off, like I would do schooling in the summers and during the regular semesters. And I just did 1 year where I'm like, I'm done. I need to take at least a year off, because also the way my semester worked, like I would have to actually wait a full year to be able to be in the right semester. And so I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I'm taking a year off. I'm exhausted. I'm done. And what I said was, I'm going to get a co-op job. And and it was funny because I told my parents, like, I'm sorry. I'm like, I'm totally finishing. I'm like, I'm going to finish, but I'm like, I need to take a year off. Like, this is I was done. And so then I went off. So I, like, my semester finished and I need to also take a vacation. So my parents like sent me off to Colombia because I was like, I just need a break too. Like, let me take a month off and then head straight, ready to go. And I literally, in the middle of me being on my vacation, my mom calls me and she's like, I have someone that's going to hire you. And I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like, is it engineering? So I'm like, I want to do co-op. So it needs to be engineering, right? Yeah. And they're like, yeah, this person's going to interview you. And if they can't hire you there, they know these other people and you can go in there. And like that, I came back, I went for the interview, like maybe a week later, and I ended up working for them. And it was just like, because I was just like, that is what I'm going to do. Like, I was like, I'm not the type of person I'm going to waste my time. I was like, I am going to do something, right? And it was there. Like, I was like, I'm going to get home, I'll do whatever it takes to get a job, and it has to be in engineering, because I'm like, I want it to be a credit for me getting a co-op. And like, so, and it was just funny because in that case, it actually, like that, like, it came very easily, right? It's like, I told my parents what was going on, and then like my parents, I think, did the work. Like, they're like, let me talk to my connections, see who's gonna get my job, right? And it's just like, so many things go from that, right? When we're putting it out to the universe that this is happening. So it's like, there's not like, you're telling everyone, right? This is what's going to happen. And like that, like, I was like, I'm getting a job. It's going to be co-op because I want to get it as a credit anyways, might as well do something. And it went out, like, same thing with you, right? Like, you're like, this is what I want. And it just becomes an obsession. Like, this is like all it is in your mind, right? And you're
in your mind.
That's the thing.
It's in your mind. And then once it's in your mind, that's when you can start to really manifest it.
Mm-hmm. And like that, even simple things as telling people helps you get the ball rolling, right? People always think that like that. Like I didn't actually happen to look for any jobs because my plan was I'm gonna go take my vacation, just clear my mind. And then I was coming back and I was like, go, go, go. Okay, I'm gonna try to find a job. In this case, just by even saying it and telling people like these are my
It came up.
it came already, right? And like that in the middle of my vacation, this person's gonna gonna interview you and they're gonna figure out where you're gonna get placed. And I was like, okay, great, right?
Yes. Yes. It's really it's interesting, you know, because I think that it's more you, like you're the one who's manifesting it, you're the one who calls it into your life, and then all the things around it just start happening for you and for your benefit, for what you want it to be.
Agreed. And that's why even just what is going on in your mind is so important, right? Like if you're thinking of
Oh
negative things,
yeah.
it's going to bring you the negative things. If you feel you don't deserve things, you will get exactly what you don't like what you don't do deserve because like, oh, I don't deserve this, but I deserve like I can only get this. Like it's very interesting how it is really what it is we think
It's
about
in the mind. It's
because it's
all
what
in
it
the
is, right? If
mind.
we're thinking about things, it's the same thing. Like you put blinders to what you think about, really. Like you're only focused in that direction. So if
Mhm.
you want something like that, in my situation, it was like really that specific situation is quite simple to a certain extent, right? Like I just verbalized it, brought it out. And I know a lot of people will do that, especially in real estate. It's like, for example, like that, like, oh, I want it, for example, you're saying, right? I want to get into private lending. I want to do that. Like you're telling people, right? And then sooner
Mhm.
or later, something will come up because, they're like, oh, like I could use money for this project or I could do this for that project. I can get this done. Like maybe I can use Natasha's money, right? It just starts like once it's implanted,
Oh yeah,
it
I
will
would
come.
love for that to happen, you know, like I would love for that to happen. And I think that's where I want to go next. Like I think that's my next trajectory, and it's something that I've looked into for a long time. And there's obviously a lot of risk with it.
Mhm.
However, I do know people that have had a lot of reward. Like I I don't want to look at all the risks anymore of things. I feel like that, you know, it's analysis paralysis, and I am a victim of that. I've analyzed things to the point where I'm completely paranoid, and that's not healthy.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's also a great point, right? It's being able to, like having risk is fine, but being able to, I think, which is always hard for us, like logically be like, am I comfortable with these risks? And
Yeah.
going forward, because I know a lot of us, we get nervous and we'll go to like an extreme scenario that would actually never happen, like the world's gonna end and my money will never come back, and then you're like, but is that really realistic?
Yeah. Is that really realistic?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it something that is like, I don't know too many people that have had a bad, I feel like I'm one of the only ones I know that has had a super, super bad experience with, you know, like different parts of investing. For the most part, I think most people have had a great experience. And I think I had a bad experience because I just, you know, as I've told you before, I mean, I just, on our last chat, I think that you can't be too trusting, and you have to do your due diligence, and that's the most important.
Yeah. And I think in the scenario you're talking about, because it's the same with me, is that you're talking about when you're kind of running it as a business, right? Like you're probably buying properties faster than the regular person would. Like someone would probably maybe buy one or two, maybe three in their lifetime. So they're giving themselves probably a good like 5-year buffer to get this done, or 10-year buffer to like get buying a property done. Where if we're
Mhm.
going a little bit faster pace, like we also have to remember that us as entrepreneurs going quicker paced, we're learning our failures are happening quicker, right? Because we're learning a lot more. Because something that, let's say what I did, I'm going to say because I'm not exactly sure, but like let's say what I've done in a year, back then that would have been probably like a lifetime type of experience. Like don't think anyone would have done what I've done in a year, even in a lifetime. Like I moved quite quickly. But then what happens with that? You're going through a lot more learning experiences because you're going through things a lot quicker, right? And then it's like, so it's just like learning in yourselves. And same thing with you. The reasons that you're going through certain failures or learning experiences is just because you're moving at a different pace than other people, right? We're going.
Oh yeah, like we're flying. Like we you know what we did in 2 years and during a pandemic, and there was a lot of mistakes. Diana, there were so many, and I look back now and I think, the mistakes that were made could have really been avoided if I would have just had more time to think things through. I think a lot of those mistakes could have been avoided. Yeah.
Mhm. And even like with them, I think even at least during COVID, I feel like because of how the economy went, it was, to be honest, a great time to make mistakes. Because if it were before or even maybe right now that we're going into it could have been a lot worse, like, so I feel like this time was a great time for people to be really learning, because a lot of, like, I know a lot of people that were making mistakes and still making good money, like it was just like, yeah, understand, like you've made the mistake, but at the same time, like you still made money or you broke even. There were some people that I did know that lost some money, but for example, like they lost money on that project, but they made so much more on the other one because they learned from their mistake, right? They kept on pushing forward. They know that this is what they're doing and it's going to happen. And so like, yeah, they lost money on one project, but they learned from it. Like, I think especially, I feel like when you lose money is where you really learn your lessons, I feel like, a lot more, and it sticks to you and you're like, that's never happening again, like I will not put myself through that again, right? Because you've learned everything from those ones.
Yes, yes, yes. I totally agree with you. I totally agree. Like I know that it's just all the mistakes that were made, and I learned a lot of lessons, hard lessons, and they cost a lot of money. And do I wish I would have had, like, like someone guiding, do this, do this? Yeah, but the buck stops with me. I am the glass ceiling. Like you watch those talks and they're like, oh, there's a glass ceiling. No, I am the glass ceiling. I say yes or no on everything. And it's me. I'm the one who calls all the shots. And I know now in hindsight, I know that it could have been done differently, but at the time it was the best decision at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like that, it's always a learning experience anyways. Like it's something that, like you said, for example, for you, you're saying that if you had more time, if, things probably would have gone better, right? So it's just like learning even like that. Okay, next time I need to do this or that within, a longer time frame or whatever it is, to just make sure that it improves.
So, I mean, with that being said, I still think that investing is a great thing to do. And I think whatever you're going to do, you can start small. I started very small and I still go slowly. And I watch all of the videos and, all the people in our industry, and I know that they go faster than me. And there was a time when I was like, oh, me too. But now I know that I have to go at my pace for myself, that my pace is my pace because that's what's good for me.
100%. And yeah, and I think that's something though, even you learn on the journey, right? Because I think especially if you get into entrepreneurship, I feel like you get into this like shiny diamond syndrome thing where you want to do everything or try everything. And I don't know what it is, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone not still go through it. Like when you get into it, you're just trying to, I think because it comes exactly like what it is, like you have to fail so many times to figure out what is the area you want to go into. Because I found it really funny that I wanted to do everything. And the even funnier thing is when I came into and I'd be like, okay, I'm like, this is serious. I'm starting a real estate business and this is what I'm going to do. I actually knew exactly what I was going to do. And I found it really funny because I still went through a whole bunch of different real estate strategies and just figuring out
Yeah.
and then what I end off on, I'm a private lender. And I found it really funny that I went from I want to be a private lender, that's what I'm interested. I did all
Did
these
you do
different
it? Did you do
strategies.
private lending?
Yeah. I went through all these different strategies and I ended off with like private lending is what I do. I get it. And I found it really hilarious that it's like that was exactly what I wanted to do in the beginning. And I still ended up doing it at the end. Like I realized like, yeah, I don't really like this because it's not really like I'm not this kind of person or that kind of person. I'd go through all these different strategies. And then I ended up being like, yeah, my main thing is private lending. I do like flips and burrs on the side. But my main thing is I'm a private lender. So I just found it really funny that it's like I went through all these trials and errors, you know, all the and
Yeah.
realize that this is just like everything like it's so much easier for me and I get it because I'm a numbers person, you know.
Wow. Oh, well, actually, then I guess we have to talk more because I was always just doing buy and holds and burrs. Um, and now I want to do private lending. So it's interesting, right? I think having like a roundabout of everything is the best. When you get to that point, I need to rephrase that. When you get to that point, having, a roundabout of everything is awesome. You do have to stay on top of it. As I said before we even started the call, like I have to sit on everyone's head all the time because again, I am the glass ceiling.
Mhm.
Everything stops at me. I say go or don't go. And I've had a lot of trouble this year with just different contractors that work for us, from lawn care to cleaning, and it's really been interesting. And I think it's just because the climate right now here is very expensive. So I think that some people are trying to cut corners, whereas others are doing the right thing. And I unfortunately had a few that I had to let go off the team. And a team is part of your investment journey, and you have to trust them. Especially me, I'm not here when I'm on sabbatical leave. So I have to trust them wholeheartedly that they're doing the best, for me, for the business, for the tenants. And if that's not happening, then I unfortunately have to have, as I said, a very critical conversation with them.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%. It is very hard to find a good team. And I feel like I'm curious with everyone's thoughts is because I've been still hearing that, for example, like a lot of companies are having issues with hiring people because like nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to work. And I'm like, what is everyone doing? I'm like, how are you guys paying
Yeah,
your bills if
I
you don't
I
work?
wonder that too. I don't know. I just think people have decided on maybe a less stressful lifestyle. I mean, more power to them, right? I think they've decided on a less stressful lifestyle. I don't know. I don't know myself. I don't know.
Yeah, I just find that very curious because we're going to be going through a phase for my husband's business, our renovation company. We're going to be going through a phase of hiring again soon, or try again, because last year, 2 years ago, was like quite a failure. We're going to go again. And then it's just funny to hear so many people talking about that they can't find the right people. And same thing like last year, the year
True.
before, we couldn't find the right people, right? You were saying the same thing, right? You hired on people and they were just like not the right people for the job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy to see because same thing will
And
be.
the best part is when I would talk to them, they would be so angry with me. Like, and I'm like, no, I'm just approaching you. I've had a complaint from every single property about your work. And I'm not criticizing you. I want to work with you. However, I've had a complaint, in one day from every property. So it's not me, it's not them, it's obviously you. And then it just doesn't go well, unfortunately. So then I have to let them go. And then I don't want to do that. I want to work with them, but they're not accepting the feedback and the criticism.
Mhm. Yeah, it's very hard. So what would you say to a woman? Like what kind of tips would you give them for, let's say,
Oh,
getting into real estate and
I think like you need to do, as one of my mentors, Maria, would say, you need to do hours of work and learning. However, I would say if you can crunch the numbers properly and it makes sense, get into it. And even if you just sit on one house for 10 years, who cares? You know, at least you have an asset, because we go through our lives and they go so quickly. And if you look at the climate the way it is now, the financial climate, of course, things will always get better. However, there's never a good time or a wrong time to get into the market.
100% agree. That's a really great point. And like exactly you said, because either from the experience, like you'll get that one property and you're good enough, it did the job, whatever it is. Or if anything, it gives you that confidence of going for the next one. And again, the next one doesn't have to be in that year, but at least you start planning. Be like, okay, you know, this went this way, that way. How can I do this again? Be it in like whatever the term is. Maybe it's a year, maybe it's in 5 years, maybe it's in 10 years. But at least it gives you, I feel like once you do your first one, it does give you confidence for the next one.
Yeah. I think once you do one, you get that confidence for more, and then it just keeps going. And that's a great thing.
And not allowing those failures to be the end of it, and understanding that that's like a learning experience. That's a tip that I would give also, is that allowing the failure to be the learning experience to the path you're in, to help you figure out to continue the right direction to do what it is that you want to do, and not allowing that failure to be the end. Because when you make a failure, when you make a failure the end, all that means is that you actually didn't learn from your mistake. And that's, I feel like, not a good thing.
No, exactly. Exactly. You want to learn from your mistakes. Exactly. I feel the same way. I completely agree. I do. I completely agree. You want to make that learning, you want to make that the reason that you're, going to continue and change.
And what about, so I feel like this is a problem I hear a lot about, specifically with families or like moms that have kids.
I don't do business with family.
No, what I was going to say was.
Okay. Yeah, take that as another piece of advice. I don't do any business with family. I might have them on a freelance task basis where they get paid and I have evidence of it, but I will never do business with family.
Like as in if like you're gonna hire them on the team you're talking about, right?
Yeah, like I have a cousin who does lawn care, power washing. So I hired him to do a job. This isn't family, this isn't friendship, this is business. What is the price? What is the quote? Yes or no? Yes, okay, here's payment, here's my receipt, and that's it. It's too close, and it's not the way it was, say, 100 years ago. And even then, I think it was tough. But I think now, friends and family, they're friends and family, and as much as we love to work with them, I have had a very bad experience again. And I just decided that I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with that. It's funny. I've done it also where I've hired like my nieces, and then their work ethics is very different to mine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think, but we've also, to be honest, though, we've helped family out with a lot of like with jobs. But I think it's like also, at least in our case, is like making sure we still pick the right person and feeling okay with saying no to someone because they don't have the qualities that we're looking for, even though they're family. Like I think that, at least for us, because we have helped actually family members, but we've also like that said no to others because it's just been like the work ethic isn't there that we need, or whatever it was. It's just like we're looking for these qualities, and if it's not there, it's like we can't, like it's nothing we can do about it, right?
There's nothing you can do about it. And I know for me, like it's, I mean, I've decided against it. And I think to work with family and friends, it takes a very, very high emotional IQ. And I just don't know that everyone has that type of training, myself included. And there's a lot of opinions at the table, and it can get ugly. And I personally don't do it, but kudos to the people who do. Please, like, explain to me how you're doing it, you know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It is something that you definitely have to be, because you have to be tough, and sometimes it's hard to be tough with family. And so it's like, if it's like you're not going to be tough with family, then it's like, but it's better not to, because if it's like you can't, let's say say no to someone because
Yes,
or like that they can't take criticism and you don't want to criticize. Like there's so many, it is a harder, it is definitely harder. And then I can't say that it's like you're not going to be working with everyone too, like that. Like out of all our families, like we work with one, and it's because that person just we know has really good ethics and work ethics, and we really like the way they work. And so like we've seen the benefits of it, but definitely it's like one out of how many people, right? But what I wanted to actually, yeah. So, but what I wanted to actually get at was talking about mothers who have they have their families or the kids to deal with. A lot of times they like to say, oh, I don't have the time to do this or that, because they're taking care of their families or their kids. I'm curious, what kind of advice can you give for a mom that is trying to, or like a wife that's trying to get into real estate, but let's say they don't really have the time, or they don't think they have the time?
Oh, I think I usually now, I mean now after all these years, again, because I have a good team, the first and foremost is having a good team. If you don't have a good team and a good spouse, then maybe it's not for you. Choose something else that's a little bit more low maintenance. However, uh you can also get your real estate and just put it under management and just only talk to the property manager. And finding a good property manager is easy. You just check the reviews online. Well, at least this is what I do before I work with people now. I check their reviews online, and then I contact the people who left them reviews. And that takes a little bit of time, but that saves you so much money in the long run. And that's been very successful for me. And that's what I learned from my mentor, actually, is check their reviews online and then contact the people who left them reviews and ask them, was this, how was your experience, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's been working pretty good for me, actually. Alhamdulillah, it's been working pretty good. So
Yeah,
I think if you're a mom, you get a property manager, you only have to talk to them once in a while. I mean, I would counsel every week to be in touch with them and go from there. And I think that just works great.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I just wanted to touch on what you're talking about with the reviews. It's really funny that you said that, because I saw a post. I saw a post, is it yesterday, of a person upset about how the new windows were installed and how it was done. And it was exactly what you said, right? Like they didn't check the reviews, because I went like, oh, that's interesting. So I like looked at because they posted with the pictures, and it did look terrible. And I was like, I bet you they probably like asked for the cheapest cheap, and it probably didn't cover everything that they needed, or they probably, but then I look on the reviews, they have like 114 reviews, and they have only 2 stars on Google. That goes to 5.
Yeah.
And to me, I was just like, you need to do your due diligence, right? Because clearly, from what I could see, I'm guessing, obviously, assumptions is that
right.
you're on a budget, you're going cheap, and then you went through this, and probably what you're getting is just prefab windows. And because it was funny, there's like one window, and then there was like this piece of wood there, because I guess like they must have been just not custom windows, prefab windows, and they probably just paid for the windows and not like framing them in properly. Right. And I was just kind of like, either you didn't know how windows get installed, and they probably gave you, oh, here's the base price, like this is the cheapest we can do, and then didn't realize what it means,
there's
right?
more that comes after, right, with everything.
Yeah. So it's like completely true because it's like one, the reviews weren't good, and two, I'm guessing maybe you didn't know how windows are installed or what is the full process related, right?
Right.
And so
It's
it's
so
just fun.
true.
Yeah,
You're
it's just
right. No, honestly, Diana, you're right. You got to check the reviews. I mean, we shop on Amazon and check the reviews. So, I mean, why wouldn't you do that for these massive, we are in the business of massive purchases. Like I
exactly.
just did gutters and like these are 4-figure jobs. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to check the reviews.
Yeah. And just take things into like, and when you're like, so another scenario which I found really funny was, so we were helping a friend that did like it was a disaster, their project, like the contractors just did a disaster, and so we were
So,
taking over to help them out. But then the funny thing we find out, so my husband's doing the renovations, one of the units are done, completely done, and then still working on the other units. And
right,
what
right.
happens? A snowstorm happens, and the whole unit got flooded. Not flooded, sorry, it
Oh
started
my
leaking.
God.
It started leaking. And then so you're seeing, so they have to put buckets all over the place. And then so obviously my husband like stops and is like, what's going on? He tell them like, your roof is leaking. You know what they say? They're like,
Oh,
oh,
what?
in the inspection report, it said the roof needed to be replaced. And so we were kind of worried about that. And we were like, you spent, I think it was probably like around 100K on getting these renovations done, and you didn't want to spend
Yeah.
another 10, 15, sorry, 5 to 10,000 to make sure the roof was okay, so you don't have to spend more
Yeah.
money not to fix the issues. We were just
Oh
kind
my
of,
goodness.
you got like making sure
Yeah.
that you like do things right is important, because like that, like it's gonna cost you more when you put
Yeah.
blinders onto things, right? Oh, the roof
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
gonna cost $10,000, so I'm not gonna do it. I'd rather make the night
Yeah.
inside look nice, you know? And then what happened?
Cutting corners. Get
Yeah.
corner cutters. And I learned very, very well on a flip that we did. Um, don't cut corners. Just do it right. Do it right and do it right the first time and save yourself a huge headache.
Yeah, because it can be very stressful. But another a tip that I wanted to actually say on, um, if you're a mom or a wife and you think that you don't, or I mean, just even anyone, a woman that just doesn't think they
Yeah.
have the time, um, is just also, I would say, is finding out how much time you have and how
Yes.
much money you have. Like take a look at both, and then start understanding what are the different strategies available, and specifically available for, like, okay, I have a little bit of time, but for example, maybe I have a lot of money, right? And then be like, what can I do to work in that situation?
Within that
Yeah.
sphere. Yeah.
So, because
How
there's
can I work
always,
within my
yeah, because there's always ways to be involved in real estate and investing, is just understanding what your scenario is. And like we said before, once you know where you're at, once you know how much time you have, once you know how much money you have, can you really start actually finding solutions for that, right? Like until you don't
yeah.
know what it is that you have, can you really look for, like open your eyes to, okay, now what are the strategies available? What are the partnerships available? What is available for me to do with this scenario? Right. And
Mhm.
then as you start looking at scenarios, you also start realizing that, oh, I don't really like this. I rather do that. Or, oh, okay, there's this available. You also start because in any situation, you can always get involved if you want to in any kind of way. It's just really about finding the right person that you want to work with, someone that you trust, that
Oh, that's a big one. That's a big one is finding someone that that you can work with and that you can do.
trust.
It's not easy to do business, and it's not easy to do business with other people who are not like you. And I learned that even with my property management, which we've kind of moved away from, is that I would be working with landlords that are just letting people live in this like total catastrophe. And I realized, like, I'm not comfortable with that. So I had to just not work with those people anymore. And
Mhm.
that too, you know, that's also hard. That's also hard.
It is. But again, it's all the learning experience, right? That from there, it's like you realize what is important to you, right? Like, okay, what
Yeah.
didn't I like about the situation and what do I want to happen for the next time, you know? Because it's like, okay, this kind of
Exactly.
personality isn't what can work with. So I need this kind of personality. Or like we have the exact same personality, so we don't complement each other at all. We're basically doing the same thing together. And it's like I need my opposite, right? So it's like it just helps you
Yeah.
learn and figure out, okay, what it is that I need to to and like that, all these little failures just help you to figure out what it is that you need to get to where you want, what it is, that goal, there's that big desire that you want to get to.
Exactly. And it's all about your desire. Not everybody has the same wish list. And that's also something that, you know, I think with age you start to learn that not everybody has that same wish list, and not everybody's, you know, on the same wave as you. And it's unfortunate or fortunate, again, you know, it's all just in the way that you look at things.
100%. And yeah, and it's, I mean, I think it's a good thing because if we all like the same thing, there'd probably be none of it
Yeah.
left.
There'd be none of it left. I mean, like, you know, the housing market, there's not too much left. But yeah, no, I think that it's something that's really attainable for a lot of um, people who want to attain it. You know, it's all about you and what are your goals and what is it that you want and what is it that you're looking for.
100%. I think this is like a great way to end off the show. Like
Yeah,
a nice
yeah,
like
yeah,
recap,
exactly.
right?
You got
Wrap
it.
into
Yeah,
it.
Diana, you got it. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but thank
Awesome.
you so much, Natasha, for coming on. It
Thank
was really
you.
fun to chat with you. If you guys
Yeah,
like
I'm
what you
so
hear.
glad. And I know we have another one,
Mhm.
another chat coming up, and that's amazing. And I want to know more about your private lending. You got to tell me, you got to school me.
I will. We'll definitely do a chat afterwards for sure. But yeah, it was so much to have you on. Thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. I always find it like that important. We always have our passions and our interests, and it's always great to share it with everyone. So thanks so much for sharing your knowledge and your opinions and things. And we'll definitely have everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Like and share. Give us comments. Give us your tips. Curious on your tips on how you
Yeah.
get involved in real estate. Whatever you think is like, tell us what your tips are. Tell us what questions you have. Maybe we can answer them for you or direct you in the right direction. So thank you, Natasha. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see everyone in the next
Bye, everyone. Thank
episode.
you.
Bye.